I'm not actually a reader, I'm too young.
Which press you are taking the videos?
Visit Southall.
Which one is it? Southall?
Local website.
Welcome to today's meeting about Southall Town Hall, austerity and battle to save public services. I'm really grateful that so many colleagues have come on a really cold October evening. There are many distractions and many other attractions usually at this time of the week, so I'm really pleased that we've got a good turnout. And I hope you will find this to be an informative and an involving meeting. By way of introduction, my name is Jan Al-Bazran. I'm the manager of Southall Community Alliance, a local charity. I'm also a resident. And the reason why we're all here is about a building which we all know as Southall Town Hall, a building which is now almost 121 years old, a public building, a building which is associated with the history, with the social change, with the economic development of Southall, and means a lot of things to a lot of people, myself included as a child. I'm sure we have memories which are usually quite positive, but in some cases quite controversial about the building, and we're here really to share our views about the future of the building. We have, in the build-up to the meeting, circulated this lovely flyer with a long list of speakers. There's been a change to the agenda, and my colleague Suresh will explain what's happening. So just in terms of housekeeping, we're not, as usual, expecting any alarms, so if there is anything, we leave it in an orderly fashion through the fire exits and meet up at the front. Phones, could you please just check your phones to make sure they're either off or on silent. I'll do it myself, just to make sure. Yep, done. And in terms of what we're going to be doing, so we've got a few speakers who will be talking about the campaign and other local issues. I think we will probably take 40-45 minutes maximum on the talking from the front, and then we want to open it out to you. We want local people to tell us what their views are, what their thoughts are. There are people from different backgrounds, different interests. We love the diversity, we love the challenge. I would like to hear opposing views if there are any. I think it's only by having a discussion and a dialogue that we can move forward collectively. Can I just introduce colleagues with me around the table on our panel? So to my left, we've got Oliver New from Ealing Trains Council. To my right, we have Suresh Grover from the monitoring group, and Suresh is also the chair of the Save Southall Town Hall campaign. And then far right of the table, looking a little bit lonely, but I can assure you he's not, is Paul Herod, who's a solicitor who's been a fantastic help for us from the Public Interest Law Unit at Lambeth Law Centre. Did I get that right, Paul? I did, well done. So we've got a range of interesting speakers. We'll be talking from the front, and then there'll be ample opportunity for you to ask questions at the end. So if you could hold fire, if you have any questions, we'll take them all in a go. We've got 2 microphones, so everybody will have a fair crack at the whip. If there are any uncertainties that you have, please ask. We're here to help and clarify as much as we can. At this stage, what I'd like to do is pass over to Suresh to provide an explanation.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I mean, you can see there are men on the platform. In fact, there were supposed to be 2 women speakers, Claudia Webb and Shah, coming to the meeting with Julian Bell. And I just want to explain what has happened, and I want to be open and transparent as to the process that took place over the last 2 days and the reasons why they can't make today. And I'll make all the emails available on our Facebook and internet so people can judge for themselves. Some time ago, I'll start with Julian Bell first. Julian Bell last week indicated that he was delighted to be invited to this meeting and he was looking forward to speaking and asked me how long he'd have to speak at the meeting. And I obviously told him that he would have the same time as any other speaker, which is about 10 to 15 minutes. So this morning, I got an email from him, and I'm just going to read it out to you so you understand. And he said that, Suresh, I have decided not to attend the meeting tonight, having received reports about the divisions within the community that your campaign is causing. It is not something that needs to be exaggerated, and unfortunately I feel your meeting tonight will do so. Please accept my sincere apologies. Tried to contact him, he didn't answer his phone, and then I wrote to him explaining what the purpose, the aim of the meeting was. Bear with me for a couple of minutes, I'm just going to read this out to you, which explains exactly why and what we think was going to happen at this meeting. Dear Julian, thank you very much for your email. I'm saddened by the reports that you've received about possible divisions that may be caused by our campaign. Can I assure you that creating conflicts or divisions have never been our intention, purpose or aim. It never will be in the future, regardless of the final outcome in this case. On the contrary, we have taken great care in our promotional material not to mention the name of the favoured bidder during the legal process, as their identity is irrelevant to us. We are only interested in saving public space and public assets and keeping them in public hands. Indeed, from the outset, our intention has always been in bringing different communities together and establish an iconic town hall that is a new beacon of hope, unity and solidarity, especially for those communities that remain marginalized, women, young people, disabled people, and various BNA group communities, including those amongst us who are the most vulnerable or marginalized. I have to say that I was surprised by the VHK-led demonstration outside the town hall last week on Thursday during the GC meeting. Many of those who initially came are my family friends who had been provided with the wrong facts in this case. I only intervened peacefully when I heard comments about the fear that the town hall would be sold to different religious groups, and when inappropriate comments were being made about the complainant in this case, who is a 73-year-old pensioner. Some of them made attempts to storm the building, and one of them is here today, so maybe we can hear from him why he did that, to disrupt the Labour GC meeting. The VHP leader is full of inaccuracies. The letter is full of inaccuracies about the case, the court judgment, and the organisation involved in the campaign. Despite this, I was encouraging a meeting between us, a request that we have continually made to the VHK on 5 different occasions, 3 times before we launched the campaign, and specifically to avoid any divisions or misunderstandings on this case. One should ask oneself, why is it that the VHK have become so angry now, 4 months after the decision of the court, and after their failure, despite being listed as an interested party in this case, and refusal to participate in the legal process in its entirety over the year. I reiterate, we are willing to meet their representatives to discuss our approach and aims at any time they wish to. Can I also assure you that the purpose of the meeting is not to have a slanging match or deride the Labour Party in any way. It is not. It is to constructively discuss the differences we have and to engage the public in the town hall and the wider austerity debate. If we wanted to have a slanging match, we would have invited members of other political parties who have significant differences with you. Indeed, all we have done is to invite other respectable members of the party, your party, and I do not believe their presence will sow any divisions. Unless you supply us with special reasons and share your reports about the divisions, I would strongly encourage you to review your decision and attend the meeting and speak. All the speakers will be listened to with respect, and I'm happy for both of us to make a public call for unity. Surely this is the leadership that is most required now in the period of rumors or divisions. I would urge you to once again, this is my fourth request, to meet us so that we can have a productive discussion on the way forward. I rang him again, I haven't heard from him. It's a complete correspondence between me and Julian Bell. I then got a call, I've had 4 calls from Claudia Webb, and a number of calls from the leadership of the Labour Party, and 5 calls from Naz Shah. Naz Shah's last text, is only about 10 minutes ago, and she says, the temple have written to Jeremy's office and Julian Bell and Claudia and have pulled out and have been asked not to speak at this meeting as it is being promoted as an anti-Hindu event by people I do not understand why. Okay? I'm surprised that this is being said because I know what you do and that you've never been anti-religious at all. It also says that your organization has bid for the temple and only developed a court case when you lost the bidding, apparently. We need to speak as soon as possible, right? I would clarify that I do not belong to the Southall Community Association. I'm the chair of the campaign, which is composed of many organizations, at least 20. And when I discussed with Naz a few minutes ago, both of us decided, rather than her come now, because of the feelings that have been generated by the VHK, and because she's a Muslim MP coming from Bradford, it actually may be better for her not to come because that will be used against her. And I actually agree that that's the kind of politics that are being played. So she's agreed not to come. In fact, she was on her way on an Uber with her children to come for 10 minutes, make the statement and go. And I think it's not good for a woman in that position who's been in a debate in Parliament talking about the budget and austerity to be placed in the situation of coming just for this purpose. So I agree that she doesn't need to come. Claudia has spoken to me, and so has Jeremy's office, and what they've said is that they don't understand the politics of Southall. Virendra Sharma has written 2 emails and made 7 phone calls over today. I don't know why he's doing that when he should be in the debate on the budget and reflecting the views of Southall and the impact of austerity in Southall. He spent all his time today trying to force Jeremy Corbyn to put pressure on us to cancel the meeting. And in fact, his office did ask me whether I should cancel the meeting, and he's willing to facilitate a meeting, 3-way meeting between ourselves, the temple, and the Labour Party leadership. I've said to him that we are more than willing to meet anybody, and we are happy to facilitate, but we are not able to cancel the meeting, although I can tell certain people, but it's not possible to cancel the meeting at 5:30 when it's supposed to start at 7:30. Now, what I do want to say is this. Right from the outset, before we launched the campaign, a number of us went to the temple on many occasions, asking them to meet us. In fact, before even I got involved, the SCA, the Southall Community Alliance, had met with temples, and they did not object for the campaign to start or anything like that. Yes, they can speak for themselves. When I went to the temple on the first occasion, the police were there because of an infighting during the elections, so they cancelled the meeting. On the second occasion, I went with 2 other people, and we met the then temple president, who listened to us and said he'd come back but couldn't make a decision because it was in the middle of the elections. I then went back after the election, seeking a meeting with the new president. Met a lady on the reception, who then put me on to the finance secretary or the finance person. And when I said to him that I wanted to talk to him, his attitude was very simple. This is between you and the council. You need to talk to the council. We don't need to meet you. We will get the building, and you don't need to be in this building whatsoever. And after our protest, a number of us who supported us have been asked to leave the temple simply because of their support of us. I say to people now, those people who are here from the temple and those outside, this is not an issue for us about religion. It makes no difference for us whether the favorite bidder is a religious organization, a multinational, or a private individual. Even if it was my family bidding for the town hall, I would object to it. Because the principle of keeping a public space in public hands is absolutely critical for us. And that's all that matters. Nothing about the identity of the bidder. We are objecting to it on that basis. If we want to communalize the issue, and more people have VHT members who are RSS members, who want to create a conflict, that would be on your hands. It's something that we will not rise to, and it's something that we will confront if we need to confront, but in a peaceful manner. This campaign is about saving Southall Town Hall, and we will keep on campaigning to get massive support within the Labour Party and getting support within the local population. I just do not understand why people are so angry after 4.5 months after the decision. It's obvious that the council want to put it back on the market, and rather than have a discussion with us on what's possible, what's been decided by the council, despite opposition from Labour councillors from this area, 7 of them out of 15, it seems that the leadership does not want to meet us. And I think we need to put pressure on them to say that happens. So I will use any influence that Jeremy has to facilitate a meeting. Sorry, I'm just getting a text from Nesha as I'm speaking, and she's asked me to read something out for you, and I just want to do that to be true to her. So let me just get the... and this is a text that has just arrived from Nesha. This evening, I was due to... I haven't read it, so I don't know what it says, but I'm going to read it as it says. This evening, I was due to speak at a meeting entitled Austerity and Equality, the battles to save public services in Southall Town Hall, on the issue of austerity and how it impacts BME communities. I commend Suresh Grover and the Southall Community Alliance for the work they are doing to highlight this acute problem and to campaign against the sell-off of public assets of community value. However, it has become clear that the local Hindu community, specifically the VHK temple, object to the meeting on the grounds that they feel it is playing a divisive role in a dispute which damages them. In the light of this information, I feel the best role I can play as a shadow minister for women and equalities is to facilitate a private meeting between Ealing Council and the campaign and the alliance, which will help to resolve the problem rather than play it out in a public arena. I look forward to working with all the groups involved to make positive progress for the community. And that's just come from Nesha, Member of Parliament for Bradford West. I think I'll stop there and then allow other people to speak, and then if I want to come back about what our intentions about doing that. Okay?
Thank you, Suresh. There may be some colleagues who've come to one of our meetings for the first time, and what I would urge you to have a look at is this document, which we have copies of at the front. This is a copy of the court decision made in July, and actually this is the source of some of the controversy. But actually, again, for colleagues who don't know, the Save Southall Town Hall campaign was a campaign established late in 2017. I'm sure Paul will talk more about it. And we sought a judicial review of Ealing Council's decision to sell the building. The process went on, reached a full hearing. This is the decision. Please have a look. It's in fairly straightforward language insofar as legal judgments can be straightforward. And it actually contains, on the front page, details of the main parties to the case. And our organisation, Southall Community Alliance, is not one of them. But people are providing all sorts of stories and misinformation, and to use Donald Trump's famous phrase, a lot of fake news is circulating out there in the ether. And what we're keen on is actually sharing the facts. And Suresh has been really kind in sharing a lot of kind of personal and private information about today's meeting, why things have not happened as we expected and planned. And so I think, please, have a look at this. Also, we've got various documents which highlight our campaign, including this lovely, colourful document, which I hope that the colleagues can take away and enjoy. I'd like to pass over now to Paul Harrell, so that Paul can provide a legal perspective.
Can you hear me? First of all, thanks for everyone for coming out to the meeting. Just an introduction. My name is Paul Harron. I'm a solicitor at the Public Interest Law Unit, which is based in Lambeth, but takes cases from around London and the South East. And those cases are primarily interested in tackling both local government and national government over unlawful decisions. I'd like to start the meeting by thanking Jampal of the Southall Community Alliance and Suresh, who's the chair of the Save Southall Town Hall campaign. But also, and in particular, I'd like to thank all the campaigners who were involved in the campaign to Save Southall campaign, because as a lawyer, personally myself, and also we as an organisation, believe law is not just something that is above the people. It's part of, and should be part of a campaign, and should be in the position of not being above a campaign, but be very much part of the campaign. And we were very happy to assist what was a united community campaign spanning, as Suresh said, all denominations, all parts of the community, no matter where they were and where they're from. But in particular, I'd like to thank the client Mahim Dapal, who instructed us personally because he was a user of the services at Southall Town Hall. On the 20th of July 2018, at the Royal Court of Justice, His Honour Judge McKenna ruled in favour of my client and against the London Borough of Ealing. So what was this case about? On a local level, the case was a challenge to the disposal of Southall Town Hall, which is, as everyone here recognises, or hopefully will recognise, is a community asset for all of the community, irrespective of who they are and where they're from. And as the court said, it was a building that is heavily used by Southall residents. This is actually in the judgment. A building that is heavily used by Southall residents from the black minority and refugee groups, often with low incomes and multiple disadvantage. Current tenants include HelpLink, a charity which provides guidance and support to vulnerable sections of ethnic minority communities. The Southall Community Alliance, an umbrella organisation of over 100 mainly small or new community groups in Southall, which provides capacity building and office space. And the Migrant Advisory and Advocacy Service, which is a charity providing legal help to disadvantaged communities in Southall and works primarily on immigration and other legal areas. Now, flowing from that, the case also highlights the desperate rush of local councils up and down the country, and sadly I'd have to say, from a personal perspective, sadly I'd have to say, Labour councils who are looking to dispose of properties of community assets, sometimes under the noses of the community, with minimal consultation in order to balance their books. In this case, we argued and we said from the outset that the council had failed in its duties in two crucial ways. The council, we said, had failed to have regard to material circumstances in deciding to sell the building. That is, the council, Ealing Council and Labour Council, failed to give proper consideration to the disposal of the building for less than best value. Under a circular issued by the government, Circular 06/2003, which again is outlined in the decision, which hopefully you'll all see, councils have the opportunity to consider less than best price when selling an asset. So if a community wants to club together and put in a bid, just because it's under the best bid, if it's from the community, local councils have the opportunity to properly consider that bid. And a bid went in from the Southall Community Alliance. Now, admittedly, it was a rush bid, but that was a rush bid based on the fact that they hoped to convince the council that it was a bad idea. But nonetheless, that bid went in, and we argued that that bid was not properly considered by the council. We also said there was a breach of the public sector equality duty. That is, there was no consideration of the extent or nature of adverse impact on those with protected characteristics, and no proper mitigation had been identified. This is the law, and councils as public bodies have a duty, not just to look at the law, but to follow the law and consider the law. And we argued, our client argued, and the campaigners supported that as far as we were concerned, the London Borough of Ealing, the council, the executive, the cabinet had failed to consider that. What did the court say? With regard to the circular and considering a bid of less than best consideration, the court stated the following: it is clear, in my judgment, and from an analysis of the documents, that whether or not the Cabinet were aware of the exception, there is absolutely no evidence that at any time they considered its application. So basically we have a bid gone in from SCA, there was a bid from other parties, and the court has said, looking at all the available evidence that we provided, that we showed, that when we had our clients come forward and give witness statements, looking at all that evidence, there is nothing to show that the Cabinet, that the London Borough of Ealing had bothered, had considered, had looked at the bid that was provided by the SCA. And in failing to do so, how could they even begin to look at the circular? And they hadn't. And they hadn't. And I tell you why they hadn't. Not only from our evidence, not only from what we said, what we looked at the documents, what my client said, but it's the fact that Ealing Council failed themselves to provide any disclosure, anything in their defence, to show that we were wrong. They didn't do it, because they hoped that we would fall on our faces. With regard to the public sector equality duty, the court stated, and I think this is actually, it's just as damning as anything else, but the court stated, when considering what Ealing Council had done, there is really no need for me to consider ground two, that is about the equalities duty. Had I done so, I would have had no hesitation in concluding that the process by which the Equalities Impact Assessment was prepared was grossly deficient and that the defendant failed to have due regard to the public sector equality duty. That's the situation. That's the situation. That is the failure of the London Borough of Ealing. It had failed to consider my client's bid, and it failed to consider the public sector equality duty. And in doing so, it acted unlawfully. And the court had no choice but to say, you've acted unlawfully. You go away and think again. And it's quite right that they do that. Because if the court does not put a stop to this kind of behaviour, what other community assets are going to be sold? What other community assets will be taken from the community, from all sectors of the community? We want to stop that kind of behaviour. The Ealing Council has a duty to consult with all of the community, and that's what my client was saying. So what are the lessons for us, and what are the lessons for the council? If you're going to sell a property under the noses of the community, bear in mind the equality duty. Bear in mind that you can and must consider selling to the community for less than best value. But ultimately, it also highlights what kind of council we want and what kind of councillors we need. We don't need councillors who are bean counters or accountants or carry out cuts. We need councillors who are prepared to fight for the community, because that, in my view, is what they're elected to do. But we want councillors in Ealing to link up with councillors up and down the country to fight austerity. We've had the best part of a decade of austerity, of cuts to council services, not just in Ealing, but up and down the country, with libraries closing, care homes closing, youth clubs closing, and all the rest of it. Because we feel, my client feels, that uniting the community is the most important thing. The use of the building, that building needs to be invested in as a community asset for all the community. Not just for us now, but for future generations to be able to use that. It is an asset for future generations. I'm proud to have represented my client and happy we won the case. And I hope that the council and the work that my colleagues are doing here and the campaigners have done bear fruit. I hope the council leader has the decency to sit down with us. I hope the Temple will sit down with us. And let's build a united campaign to defend the community asset. Let's invest in that community asset, not just for ourselves, but for future generations as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. That's really inspiring and actually very factually helpful for us all to know. Can I just share one other detail with colleagues? Well, two details. Firstly, our campaign, although it had a very strong legal element to it, is a community campaign. Although we're missing politicians from today's table, actually it's talking about the community and what the community might lose. That's really why we invited them here. And so that's really the nub of our meeting and our campaign. How can we preserve assets for all of us and not just for a section of Southall or its residents? The other thing to bear in mind is this campaign and the legal action are relatively new, but actually our organisation was complaining about the potential sale of the town hall for over 2, possibly almost 3 years before the sale took place. And that's crucial. We didn't know who the buyer was. We didn't know who any potentially interested parties were. So we were campaigning on the basis of saving a building that we all love and have a special affection for and interest in. So I think that's really important to remember. For more than 2 years before the sale decision in September 2017, there were people campaigning to stop the building being taken out of public hands. Finally, saving in all the best conditions of public speaking, the best till last. Oliver New, who's going to provide us with a summary of work he's involved in and, of course, relating to our campaign. Oliver?
Thank you, Jeff. So, my name is Oliver New. I live 5 minutes walk away, just the other side of King Street. I have lived in Southall and been active in the community for 45 years. And I know a lot of you have been active a similar length of time or a long time, because I know a lot of faces. I worked in Southall. And I'm here speaking on behalf of Ealing Trade Union Council, which is local trade union activists. And if you do belong to a union branch locally, then please try and get your branch to join the Ealing Trade Union Council. There are 2 issues relating to the sale of Southall Town Hall. The big issue, as far as we're concerned, is that it's a cut, that it's a loss of a community asset. And they have, over many years, taken away one thing after another from Southall. A lot of them are listed on this piece of paper, just as they have in communities all around the country. They have privatised. In other words, they've given public assets to private people, often very cheap cost, to make money. And what they hope is that as they go along, as they cut, as they make the rich richer and the rest of us struggle more and more, they hope we'll all give up. They hope that we'll be demoralised. And even the council that is supposed to represent us, and sometimes does some good things, even they seem to have just got into the habit that they can sell anything. But of all the buildings in Southall that I've been aware of over those years, Southall Town Hall is the sort of heart. It represents, Town Hall represents a united community. And when they come to sell the Town Hall, it's amazing that they didn't expect the sort of reaction that they've got. And I have to say, even the government, which is the government in office, which is totally arrogant about all of their cuts, all of their privatisation, is now feeling the public anger. People now want to reverse rail privatisation. The overwhelming bulk of people think it only makes sense that the railways are back in public ownership, that the gas and electricity and the water are back in public ownership. Even the government are now saying, oh, well, austerity is ended. I mean, it's a lie, they're carrying on doing it, but they are starting to go on the defensive. And that is what's happening now. We don't accept that the last building, apart from this one that we're sitting in, that is there for the community, should be sold off, whoever it's sold to. It's not acceptable. Because this community is here to work. This community in Southall was built around originally the factories that were Walls and Sunrise Radio. That was where suddenly people came to this town in hundreds and thousands. And people came to this town after the Second World War, communities from around the world. People came to this town to work, and people came from different communities, different religions, all different kinds of people, and they work together and they work in unity. And when people have tried to divide this town, for example, in 1979, when the Fascist National Front tried to come to this town to spill division and sow hatred, there was a huge united response in defence of our united community, and we want to keep that community united together. We celebrate the fact there are different kinds of people in this community, and we work together and we live together, and that's what we want. And I'm afraid I very much worry about some of the things that are being said in terms of divisions within the community. Because what we don't want is a community where It's said this religion and this group had that much spent by the council, and that one had this much spent, and we're going to deliver votes. That's not the way to look at a united community. That's not the way we think. We want a building like this one where women can come, where men can come, where people of different ages and different communities can come, because it's like a school, it's like a hospital, it's something for the community that we want together. That's what we need to keep. Our hospital is in even worse straits, and I have to say, credit to the council, they have been campaigning to defend the hospital. But that hospital, which we need, people will die without that hospital, is under threat because of the cuts. They want to close hundreds of beds and close the accident and emergency, and we've had a fantastic campaign against that. There have been campaigns up and down the country to defend the NHS. The biggest grassroots national campaign since the poll tax campaign, and it was the poll tax campaign that overthrew Mrs Thatcher government, and our community campaigns can do the same thing if they don't wake up, if they don't realise the strength of feeling that we need our community resources, and we need our town halls, we need meeting places, we need to empower communities, and you can't empower communities, and you can't empower unity if you don't have the wherewithal to do it, and you don't have community spaces. That is what council should be there to defend. So we're going to have some new challenges now, because there are these tower blocks going on. The Tory government gave away the heart of Southall, which was that polluted land, that gasworks land. They gave it away for almost nothing to private property developers, and now we as taxpayers are subsidising Crossrail, which is going to come to Southall. Now they're rubbing their hands. We can make some money. We can make some money by building high-rise flats. Southall is going to be tower block city. We're going to have an extra 40 to 50,000 residents. And those residents haven't come here to work, they've come here because they can't afford housing in central London because of the property speculation. So we need to, I don't like the way it's happening, I don't like the huge profits being made at the taxpayer, I don't like the fact that they're working on polluted land, that they are causing filthy air, that people are getting asthma, but nevertheless, we know they're going to have these town blocks. We need to welcome the new residents to Southall, the new people. How are we going to welcome those residents? How are we going to involve those residents in the community if we don't have community buildings, if we don't have places where some of them can come and volunteer and take part in community activities? It's ridiculous. And it should be the role of the council to understand that, to welcome people, because we do that, we do welcome them. So I'm really grateful for everybody that's come here tonight to support us. I'm sure that once this misunderstanding that has been deliberately created has died off, it will be very easy for people in the community to agree. We need public buildings, we need this Dominion Centre, we need the town hall, and we're going to insist on having it. And I think that would be the overwhelming people from whatever community right across Southall. And I think we can have a big campaign, and I look forward to those councillors who voted against the sale of Town Hall being joined by more councillors as we put the pressure on, as they talk to people in this community. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming here tonight, and I'd like to, in particular, to thank all the activists from the Save Southall Town Hall campaign and all of the other campaigns that are essential to having a united community such as we have in Southall, community that I'm very proud of. So, unity and solidarity. Thank you.
We're almost at the stage of allowing for questions and having a Q&A. But Oliver's just reminded me of one important segment of our audience that we need to thank. Actually, there are other campaigners here today. So we have colleagues from the Save the Hospital, Save the NHS campaign. We have colleagues from the Clean Air for Southall campaign. We also, and this is why this meeting is not just about Southall, we also have colleagues from the campaign to stop the potential sale of Ealing Town Hall. So it's not just Southall Town Hall, it's Ealing Town Hall, which is also in jeopardy. So there's a commonality, something that unites us beyond just the geography of this place. I think I perjured myself and lied to everybody by saying that Oliver was best till last, because I've been a bit remiss. I have to hand over to Suresh just to make a few final comments, and then we'll go to the public question and answer session. Suresh?
Thank you, John Paul. I prepared a speech so that Julian Bell could hear us, but he's not here. But what I want to do is raise a number of key points that I think we need to register in our heads and our minds and have them at the forefront of any strategy we develop to save the town hall from now on. When we first started the campaign almost a year and a half ago, we were on the back foot. The information was controlled by the council. We didn't have a claimant and we didn't have any solicitors. We had to create a legal strategy, get the lawyers, force for ourselves to think how to save the town hall, and luckily met a 73-year-old pensioner who was willing and able to support the legal quest that we undertook. And you know, we have to thank Mr. Paul because of the intimidation and threats he suffered from a number of people in Southall, including some councillors who didn't want us to undertake the legal action. Took us a long time. We mobilized. We used our own strength and our own self-reliance. We made sure that it wasn't just led by one community. We had people from the Africas, the Somali community. We had women, the Southern Black Sisters and other people involved in it. We had people who had been part of anti-racist campaigns and movements in this town from the 1970s. Balraj Puriwal, the founder of the Southall Youth Movement, when Chagga was killed. Many of us here, like Harsev, Ravi, myself, Oliver, Eve, were involved in the 1979 events when the National Front came and we mobilized against them. Many of us were taken to courts and punished for resisting racism. Some of us were involved in the 81 events when the skinheads came and we fought against them. So we made sure that those who were involved in the campaign were from all different aspects and reflective of the communities that live and breathe and work in this area. And you know, we became innovative. We knew that the hurdles that would come to us would be enormous. We took exceptional care that this issue would not be communalized. As I said before, and I make this point again, it actually makes no difference to us who wants to take the town hall. We want to preserve it in the hands of people and public, and for the public to decide with the council what the vision of the town hall should be. This year, before the court case, we took over the town hall to involve large sections of the community. We created a flag, a people's flag, and that flew over the town hall, reflecting different political strands that we believed in. Women's issues, the green issue, the issue of supporting workers, all coming together in the movement that we wanted to create. And we won a tremendous legal victory. A victory that neither the council or anybody else in the Labour Party thought we would win. But we didn't gloat when we won. We actually ran the council in a very humble way and said, let's start thinking on how to save the town hall. What are the key elements in that? Not just the legal, but the political aspects of that legal victory. Shamefully, I have to say this, and it cannot be forgotten. The fact that this council failed in its equality duties, given that we are such a diverse borough run by Labour, is shocking. It didn't understand that its decision had adverse impact on women, on other faith groups, on VME communities, on disabled people, and it's not the first time that this has happened. 10 years ago, it failed that equality impact assessment when it cut the grant of the only black women's organization in Southall, the Southall Black Sisters. This is the second time it's been found to be institutionally racist. And I said to the council, let's learn the lessons so it's not repeated again. And the response of the council was actually the decision made by a judge living in an ivory tower, rather than understand the consequences of it. The fact is, the decision and the process used by the council to sell off the building was unlawful and its impact discriminatory, and needs to learn from that lesson. And I said that we are willing to work together so we can move forward. And all our pleas fell on deaf ears. We met councillors, those who opposed us and those who wanted to work with us, secretly and in public. So we didn't want to out anybody, because we need to work with people in power who can make those decisions. We are ordinary people running campaigns. We won in law, in the courts, but the decision is still by politicians. Some councillors said to us they're with us, but they cannot attend meetings because a 3-line whip has been passed by the council leader that they'll be disciplined. I don't know whether that's true or not, but if it is, it's outrageous that that can happen when these issues are live and very important to people in this town. Second aspect, which I want to raise, is the whole issue of finances. The first question that we would have asked Julian if he was here is, Julian, tell us the truth. Is the town hall making a loss or a profit? Because in 2015 and 16, according to the legal arguments, it was making a loss of £1,000. That's £1,000. Not 20, 30, 40,000, making a loss of £1,000. But inside information from officers have come about that actually last year and this year it's made 60,000 profit. Is that true, Julian? If it is true, why are you trying to sell the building despite austerity? Does that actually match what is being said publicly? What was said to us publicly by the leadership of the council is that it's making a huge loss and it's a drain on council resources, and therefore we need to put it in for sale. It's actually not making a loss, it's making a profit. And if Julian doesn't answer this question openly and transparently, all we have to do is a freedom of information request, and we'll have it in public life in 2 weeks' time. So it's better to be transparent and open about it. If it is making that profit, then why is it being labelled to be sold off? For the council, it's just brick and mortars, building which is no history or legacy in this area. It's simply a unit, a commodity that can be sold off. They do not care about the impact that the sale of the building will have. That's the third point I want to make. It's critical that we in our communities, given the transition that is taking place with regeneration, with the transportation, with new people coming in the next decade in this area, that we begin to have a vision that we can all possess and share and agree on. A community without a vision will not exist, it will perish. And the town hall, as a beacon, as a centre which has a legacy, there has been proposals to cut it before. And to our amazement, the previous leadership of the Labour Council under John Cudmore actually agreed that it should not be sold. He put it back into the community use. The leadership of the Tory party and the Liberal Democrats actually believe that the town hall should not be sold. You may think they are being politically opportunistic. But actually what it shows is that there's no financial imperative for it to be sold. And actually, if you look at the history of assets being sold, you know that the financial argument is wasteful. Because this leaflet shows that in Southall, over the last 30 to 40 years, 10 places that are owned by the public through the council have been sold, not because there's any financial hardship, even in periods of boom, they've been sold. And it tells you every single building that has been sold. So there's a compulsive problem that we have within the council, who do not see buildings for what they are. That place, as Oliver and my other colleagues have said, is used by 10,000 people every year. People come from immigration advice. People who require social services support come to it. People who require any form of advice, assistance, come to that place. It harbors 15 to 20 organizations in it. Communities, charities, small businesses. It is not an empty space where you can reallocate people simply because there aren't places in Southall. It has one of the most marginalized communities, the Somalian community, centers, offices based in there, people using their own businesses, etc. It has the possibility, with new entrants, residents coming into Southall, of becoming a place which can actually begin to display and promote the history of Southall and look forward to the future. It can involve schools in that process. It's a building that we will use to commemorate the 40th anniversary of Blair Beach's murder and the April events next year in April. It will be a pivotal place where school children will come and learn about the history, where workers will come and explain what they did, etc. It is critical that we have a building that people can call its own and shape its future in the way that we need. The values we have are very similar to the leadership of the Labour Party. There's no difference in the values that we have on that side. We have a real problem with the reluctance and damnation that this current leadership of the Labour Party, for some reason we do not understand, wishes to sell this building without explaining the specific reasons for it to a local religious group. They're absolutely convinced that that will happen. And Julian needs to explain why is he so afraid of us when we're willing to meet him. What is it that makes him think that we are a threat to his political power? What is it that we have done which he's so frightened of that he can't come and attend this meeting? If there is going to be disunity, surely he should be in this platform calling for unity over followers. That's what leaderships are, and that's what they have to be. And you've seen from here that we don't want discord amongst religious groups. We've always fought oppression wherever it comes. What we don't want is a building where different religious groups cannot go to, where women do not feel safe to go to, where people who have no faith cannot go to. We need a building that has a secular standing, which is not anti-religious, but it is controlled by ordinary people, where all forms of religions are welcome, where people who really are vulnerable can use, from the African, Caribbean, Asian, Somalian, whether you are religious or not, young or old, women, etc., can use it. That's the vision that we want to create. And surely that vision should be created by people who are active in Southall with the current leadership of the council. And we implore that the leadership listen to us. One last final thing. In Southall, unfortunately, I've been here for 40 years, some people have been for longer, actively. Nothing has come to us on our plate. Everything has been forced by us. Whether it's the 79 events, when the skinheads came and we took them on and they've never been seen in Southall since. Whether it's workers organizing in factories to unionize themselves and get better conditions. Everything has come through. Whether it's women arguing against sex discrimination, forming women organizations. Whether it's Indian workers or African organizations coming and representing self-interest, etc. Everything seems to be done by us without any assistance from any people in power. This campaign is the campaign of this year and next. The outcome of it will decide the town that you wish to live in. The outcome will decide whether we can create a community which looks like us, of different color, of different gender, a rich mix of different flavors, trying to take hold and build and plan for the future. That is what is at stake today. And I urge everyone to join this campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suresh. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got the hall till 9:30, so we've got just over 45 minutes. You've heard us, we want to hear you. We've got 2 microphones. My colleagues Ravi and Andre will row, and I'll take as many questions as we can. Please be as succinct as is possible.
Representing many organizations who work very hard to develop their culture, their languages, and meet the needs of the community. This is what the campaign is showing us, that all of us here today are united as one community. It's a unifying campaign, not a divisive campaign, as was portrayed outside. The second, we do not accept that there is no money. We lost the Dominions, the community centre, the Dominion centre. It's all a reflection of the policies of privatisation. It's time those policies of selling public assets to private concerns be stopped, and victory of this campaign is going to be a step in the direction of stopping those policies that are taking our assets away from us. Let's work hard, unite to win this campaign. Thank you.
Thank you,
Hi, Indrajit Singh Major, former councillor, so there are 3 of us who put their heads in the parapet. I just want to pick up something that Suresh said before I make my substantive comment here this evening, which is this issue about Jeremy Corbyn's office not understanding what's actually going on in the community. Therefore, they've basically asked the MPs not to participate. I think this is something that's been bugging me for a number of years, where, as a Labour Party member and being a councillor, so on and so forth, where they fail to understand us as communities across the country. Okay? There's a colonial mentality within the party, which still persists despite the fact that Baroness Shamli Chakraborty was asked to report on anti-Semitism and racism within the Labour Party, and she did so. And I gave evidence as part of that process, and that was to stop stuff like this from happening, which was to understand our communities better, so we don't end up with stuff happening in the way it's happened tonight. So I'll say no more on that. The other issue for me, which is a pertinent one, is I spent at least 10-15 minutes talking to a number of people outside, picketing, who are basically calling this meeting a divisive one. The leader of the Labour Party locally, Julian Bell, has said so in his email, which Suresh read out. I don't think this is a divisive one, given the history of the people involved in this campaign, and more widely. I've said to Mr. Joshi outside, who I've known for a good part of 35-40 years, and I said, this is not right, what's being said on the placards. This is fake news, essentially. I think we need to sit around the table. I think Suresh is absolutely right that Julian Bell need to facilitate and lead. This is what's missing in this town. Not a single leader has stepped up to the plate when this issue arose. This is a car crash that's been made at Ealing Town Hall by the politicians and the chief officers. It's a botched out operation where they've set up the community against another community. It's basically, this is not an anti-Hindu issue. This is not an anti-anything issue. This is about the preservation of a history of this, rich history of this town, the heritage that we want to pass on to the future generation. This is what it's about. If we don't grasp it now, we never will. And Suresh is absolutely right. We have literally a few months at our disposal. We need to get Julian Bell, we need to get the National Labour Party leadership around the table to discuss this. And I thank the Chancellor of the Exchequer in the last 24 hours in delivering the budget that he did. Now, what he has done has offered 4% extra funding for local government. What that means for translated, as a former councillor, I can tell you, that's extra £12 million for Ealing Council. That's what's coming down the street. It's extra funding that was never in the forecasting of the local authority. The council would have generated a sale proceeds of something like £2 million from Southall Town Hall. So they either have extra £10 million to pay for. So I think this little chain here, where asset stripping has gone on for the last 40 years, we cannot add Ealing Town Hall to this. As well as Ealing Town Hall, but the Southall Town Hall to this. We owe it to the future generations. We must fight the corner. And this is not about any fighting against any particular community. We all are playing a part in this. And I welcome the cross-diversity of our community and leading this charge, because there is no leadership in this community. That's what sadly political leadership is lacking. That's why people have to step up to the plate here.
Thank you, Richard. You next, Marvin.
Just very briefly, my name is Prabhat Prewal. I'm part of the campaign. I just want to set the context in which we are subjected. For those that everybody will know that what we're facing is an axis of corruption. There is the politicians, there is the business community, and there are the religious leaders. Insofar as our history tells us, the institution for us as black people in Southall has always been missing. We have always been subject to cuts. In fact, nothing has ever existed much in our town. And the consequences have been that the state has not existed in Southall. And because the state has never existed for us, the religious institutions have taken some of that space. And it is as a consequence of their misuse of their power that you are seeing the divisions in the community that people are seeing outside today. We need to be aware of these dangers, and we must kind of recreate what we've always fought for. People on the platform have eloquently said that. Justice, a secular community where everybody feels inclusive.
A number of hands up. There's a lady at the back, and we haven't had a female speaker, so it's rather dull. Please.
Hello, my name's Sri Ann Davis, and I don't live in Southall, I live in Hanwell, just down the road. And I just wanted to correct something about the poster we have here about assets that have been sold off in the community. Because Warren Farm wasn't sold, it was given away. And the community in Hanwell also took legal action against the council. I'm actually a local solicitor and I issued 2 JRs against the council, and currently that's going up to the Supreme Court on the legal issue is whether the test is met to develop metropolitan open land, because Warren Farm is 61 acres of metropolitan open land, which is London's green belt. If you can imagine how much money that land is worth in the middle of West London, and the attempt is to give it away to QPR for no money. So QPR are owned by billionaires. They're owned by the richest people in the world. And I have to say that the decision to give away Warren Farm was taken in 2011, before austerity had really begun to bite. And within the same month at a cabinet meeting, the council had enough funds to lend £2 million to a private company to build a car park. So part of this, of course, is around austerity, but the Speaker is right that part of this is part of the mentality of the local Labour Party leadership. The community representative, Brenda Sharma, is also our MP. I've got to say, and in common with your campaign, he's been completely absent from our area. He sits on the fence. He's not seen around our area. I've been a Labour Party member, and I'm vice chair of my local Labour Party, and I have yet to say hello to Brenda Sharma. I've never met him. He's only ever come to canvassing at the beginning and then gone away once a photograph's been taken. So I think, and I have to say that for Julian Bell as well, there's this ideology that things seem to be better in private hands. And, we had the same kind of thing that you suffered, that figures were massaged, that it said that Warren Farm was costing a lot of money. It was actually costing something like £17,000. But it was housing some other public services like tree chopping services that had to go elsewhere. It was also being run down in the campaigners' minds deliberately, and all it actually needed was some new changing rooms, because there were some old 1950s changing rooms there that had asbestos. We found out the council could have got grants of up to £500,000 to sort out those changing rooms, which they never applied for, and instead they decided, as I said, to give away the prime piece of our public land to the richest people on the planet. Now, this is what they've tried to do to us. We've been holding them off for 5 years, and you may have to do the same. And like the Speaker said, although I believe, Paul's shaking his head there, although I do believe in using the law where you can. What really helps as well is political pressure behind that campaign, because without it, you look at the people who, without it, they're not going to change their minds. So the campaigning is, in my view, far more important than the legal stuff. With respect, Paul.
Thank you very much. We do stand corrected about the document. Can I have Mohammed and the gentleman? Okay, we'll come this way.
First of all, I'd like to thank Suresh and the team. Suresh is not there, and also the solicitor for getting that right, the legal term right. And Suresh and Chapal and the solicitors, they are all there for the communities. We should support them. And I think Southall is the most users are representing the Somali community. And the most beneficiaries on that Southall Town Hall is Somali community. And it is very hard. Without it, there will be so many services Somali community will miss. And I think if Julian Bell and the leaders are representing people, I think they should acknowledge that the town hall is a place for everyone, and they should not, it's not against any religion or anyone. I think we should campaign for the beneficiaries, and we have to tell that the people who are using this center are the people who are needing the most, and especially the Somali community. And I think we need to emphasize, and I think maybe Julian Bell need not to sit in that office and maybe have a visit on how daily people are using that center to feel that it's not for individuals, but it's for all.
Yep, gentleman with the burgundy coat, continue.
My name is Raj Gill. I'm the Brown Secretary of the West London United Community. I'd like to say that this campaign, where it's been conducted, where all the other various community organisations have come together, and where the Trade Council, Healing Trade Council, is supporting the campaign, it's wonderful to see Southall. I mean, I remember the early 70s and 80s when this area was covered with factories and workers working in factories, and trade union was strong. In terms of the community campaign, Southall Town Hall has been there in existence for many, many years. It's an icon which we cannot let go. So what I'm saying to I'd just like to second the appeal by Ollie Neal in terms of how important for the trade union branches to affiliate not only to the Healing Trade Council, but to get involved with their branches and get involved with the Labour Party and get their union branch to affiliate to the CLP, and it can have a real influence. I think if the politicians ignore the movement and they ignore the trade union, and it won't be long where we're going to come to a conclusion that the leadership is not for us. I'm not saying that now, but all I'm saying at this stage is let's get involved, let's get the movement off the ground and really challenge the politician, whoever they are, Labour, Conservative, Liberal, whoever they are, and this area is the bedrock of the Labour Party and the Labour movement, so we can have influence. All I'm saying is to you guys here, join the trade union. If you are in the trade union, attend your branch meeting, affiliate, get involved, and let's get the movement on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, John. My name is Will French, and I'm actually from far away in Ealing. We are having a similar sort of issue with the sale of Ealing Town Hall that some of you have heard of. First of all, I wanted to come along and thank you, Mr. Powell, and thank the lawyers for really doing a service, not just here for Southall, but across the borough, because this is a story that's going on in Ealing, it's going on with my colleague in Acton, the same process is going on with selling off a library there, and we've heard about Warren Farm. In each case, the issues are slightly different. In Ealing, we've got in fact, we found out it's a charity that the council is giving away. They don't have a right to sell off a charity, but that's what they're doing, and they're hoping to put it through. It's a slightly different issue each time, but the tactics are the same, to just do it without consulting people and without answering criticisms that come along. The thing that really worries me is that in the next 10 years, according to the London plan, the Borough of Ealing is going to be required to build 28,000 new homes. That's going to bring about 80,000 new people into the borough. And if we give away all of the community assets, which we're doing at the rate that we're hearing about now, all the new people who come here are going to have no facilities to live with. Places like town halls are places for people to come together and meet, and different communities to come and introduce themselves to one another and learn about one another. If we lose those, then we lose the central places. And I think that the problem is really serious. I really congratulate you for the initiative you've taken. I'm astonished and very pleased you've won this High Court ruling. We're studying it carefully and we're going to wait and watch and see what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Will. I know there's a cohort of colleagues here. I just want to check. Sada, did you want to say something? Yeah, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sada Musso, and I have been running a business at the Town Hall for about 12 years old. I just want to give a little bit of background information. As a 19 years old in December 2004, I had a business idea, but I had no idea of how I was going to run that business or make that into a success. So I was trying to find a place where I can find the information and the support. So somebody told me to go to the Town Hall, in which I did. And at that time, it was under the leadership of a company called Heathrow City Partnership, who supported me with a business plan and everything throughout the process. They gave me a space, and I managed to set up 2 successful businesses. One was a state agency where I support mainly Somali community to rent property from landlords who might not necessarily deal with them directly. And the other one is a care agency where I work with 2 different local authorities, one in Ealing, another one in Hillingdon, and I provide an employment opportunity for 30 people. So it's sad for me, someone like me, who benefited from the Town Hall, to see what's gone through, but more importantly, I feel absolutely disgusted to see the banners outside, because the individual who actually supported me was a Hindu. He had a Hindu faith. So that makes me feel so sad to see banners like that outside, where I feel now like I've been differentiated from a different community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sada. We'll come to Belinda. Gentleman there, Eve, Hossein.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Balwinder Rana, and I'm from the Western Standard District. I used to live in Southall for about 15 years, but I don't live anymore because I had to move to the Central London. I was not involved in this particular campaign, but I've been keeping in touch with the campaign on the Facebook and the social media. And I was so happy when I saw these people who've been active in the campaign outside the High Court, I think, and celebrating that they have won. It really made me happy. But now, I'm so sad and very angry that some people are trying to divide our community. It's very, very wrong. I think, as people have already said, that this town hall, it belongs to the community, it should be preserved. But we need unity in the community as we had before. Now, a number of people have mentioned the name of Blair Peach. Blair Peach was my friend and comrade, a member of the anti-Nazis. And when the National Front tried to come to Southall in 1979, all of us, all the community got together. And many people sitting here, we were in the forefront, and I was the chief steward for the demonstrations. We beat the National Front then, and later in 1981, we beat them again. We need the unity because the fascists have not gone away. In fact, now again they are rising. Only about 3 weeks ago, in London, 15,000 fascists marched through central London. 15,000. I've been fighting against race fascism in 50 years now. I've never seen 15,000 fascists marching in London. That's what's happening in this country today. We need to wake up, because they will be coming to Southall next. It's happening all around Europe as well. In Italy, in Germany, in Hungary, Austria, in France, in almost every country, the fascist parties are rising again. And they are being provoked by people like Donald Trump. In America, a couple of days ago, 11 people murdered by a fascist in a synagogue. And that sort of thing can happen in this country as well. So I would urge the people who try to divide their communities, stop dividing our communities. Let this decision stand. Let us as a community have the town hall, but let's get united. Let's fight back against the fascists. Thank you.
Thank you, Govind. I think unity in the community is a really important message to take back. Eve, and then gentleman has been waiting very patiently.
Hi, I'm Eve Turner and I'm also involved in the Trades Council, and I'm involved in Ealing Save Our NHS, trying to save Ealing Hospital, South Ealing Hospital, yeah. I mean, we obviously, I'm very pleased to have also been involved in the campaign to save Southall Town Hall. As this leaflet shows, we've lost so many services, you know, we no longer have daycare services for physically disabled people. We no longer have a police station, not that I'm a great fan of the police, but we no longer have a police station. Our local hospital, which is so much needed by this community, still remains under threat, despite the fact that we've had a fantastic campaign and lots of support in Southall, because this community realises how important it is to have a hospital that addresses the needs of this community, and that's what's under threat. But what I want to really say is to pick up what people are saying, because this is also a meeting about austerity. And the problem that we have, it's not just Ealing Council, it's councils all around the country are not standing up and fighting and linking up, because that's what we need to do. And unfortunately, if you don't fight against the Tory government cuts, then what you end up is actually carrying out those cuts. And it's Labour that actually gets the blame. Now, I have to say, throughout this campaign, I've heard people say to me, well, you know, we ought to be linking up with the Tories. And I have to say that is the fault of this council. You know, and I need to say to Julia and other people in the Labour Party that people in this community feel let down by Labour. They do feel let down by Labour, and they draw the wrong conclusions. Because let's be absolutely clear, you know, the Tories are our enemies. They're the enemies of people in this community, of working people, of the poor, the dispossessed, the vulnerable, the disabled. They are our enemy. They are the ones who are responsible for closing our services at the hospital. They are behind the loss, you know, of all of the services. But unfortunately, if Labour doesn't fight, then Labour gets the blame. And that's not surprising, because that's the way it's also put across in the media. And it's great, I know there are people in the Labour Party who are fighting to change that, but that is the message that this council needs to understand, that they are also responsible for dividing this community and encouraging people to think that somehow the Tories, who are cutting everything, are responsible. The very last thing I want to say is Oliver talked about the tower blocks that are going up, and some of us were involved in the campaign to stop the gaswork development. It wasn't because we're anti-housing, it's because we didn't want to see a development on poisoned land, and that we felt that having thousands of people moving into this area in tower blocks and all the rest of it would actually start to change the character of this area. And now that's dramatically changed with, you know, 40, 50,000 and Will was just talking about the numbers, which I wrote down and thought, my God, 28,000. You know, where there'll be, you know, they're talking about cutting our hospitals. We don't have enough jobs in this area. We have a town hall under threat, 2 town halls under threat, and we need those community facilities, as everybody has said. But we need to have a united community. We need to defend the character of this community, it being a very broad community, so that when new people come along, they see a united community. So I think it's absolutely crucial that we keep up the fight, and we need to have a dialogue about what we want at Southall Town Hall, what services we want, and how we want to do that. We don't have time to do that now, but I hope more people will get involved so we can have a real vision for the kind of Southall that we want to see in the future.
My name's Dominic Mahi. I've been living here since '65. I was a policeman in this town for many years. Walked the beats of Broadway, so forgive me. I was also asked by the Tory party to stand for MP. They knocked on my door, found out who I was, and they said, "Will you stand for us?" And I said, "Thank you, but no." The reason I'm here today is we're part of a group, small group called Clean Air for Southall. You've talked about the poison land that's been developed on. That is causing, and I want everyone to hear this, is causing the illnesses in our children and in our families and in our loved ones in Southall and around Southall. So if you're not involved in this campaign, you need to get involved. If you feel your children are feeling ill, it's because of this poison that's coming out of this land. I've written to Julian Council a number of times, he hasn't replied. The councillors, each and every single Chittenden councillor of the Labour Party have not replied. Ealing Council has not replied. Health England have not replied. So we need to do something. We need to stand up. We need to show Julian Bell that he's not in control. The people of Ealing are in control. So we are the ones who make the decision. We are the ones who can go up to his office and say, "Get out, you're no longer needed." And the only way we do that is not to support Labour, but to support independent people if we have to. It's been done before. It has been done before. But this air that's polluting Southall is causing asthma. I've now had to take asthma pumps because I can't breathe in Southall. I can't walk more than 100, 200 yards without feeling a burn in my throat. If you're feeling the same, you need to go and see your doctors. You need to go to the hospital and get yourself checked out. This is a serious problem. Just like saying Southall Town Hall and all the open spaces. We need to stop this. We need to get this development stopped. I asked the builders, I was there last week for a meeting, and I said, "So what's these gases coming out?" They said, "We don't know." They have a zero tolerance for gases that they don't know they have to stop the work. They don't know what's under there, they haven't stopped. Julian Bell is saying, "Carry on. I need the houses." Forget the people of Southall who are suffering. Forget the little children who are going to the hospital. Forget the adults who are causing asthma to. Maybe even we're causing cancer with them. Forget them. I need houses. I've got 2 words for Julian Bell.
Thank you, Enrique. And I'm still trying to figure out what those 2 words might be. But before we're getting close to our cut-off point. Sir, and the young gentleman here.
Right, 2 words. I'll only say 2 words. Right, first of all, I just want to pass on a message from Mahinder Pal, whose name has been mentioned from the platform. He cannot be here this evening with us because he is taking the benefit of National Health Service and is having to undergo heart surgery. He is going to have a pacemaker installed because he is suffering from poor health. His health has not been helped by the intimidation and the harassment and the messages he has been receiving, not from the people he took the case against directly, but from an interested party that didn't want to be interested. I won't say more about that. I am from the Indian Workers Association, but not the one next door. It is the Southall branch of the Great Britain, IWGP, of which Mahinder Pal is the Vice President of this unit in Southall, and I'm its Secretary. So I'm very proud that he stood up to be counted when he was asked to stand up for Southall, as a person who is using Southall Town Hall through MWS, somebody who is attending regular meeting of Southall Community Alliance. So I'm very pleased that he did that, and I'm sure you'd want to share with me to pass on your good wishes for him to make a speedy recovery. Secondly, you have received, I'm sure, if you walked in through the front, you couldn't have missed it, some leaflets. And it's not the first time you received certain leaflets. Similar leaflets were distributed on the 25th of October outside Southall Town Hall, making slanderous, defamatory accusations and false information about Southall Community Alliance. We will answer it fully in due course. But let me just say, they are sadly mistaken with their figures, with their data, and making personal accusations and targeting our manager. I think it is deplorable. Whoever is feeding them this information, and those aiding and abetting them and supporting them to make accusations against the manager of Southall Community Alliance and against Southall Community Alliance, I think they need to be exposed for the things that they are doing. One thing is very clear, as this campaign has demonstrated, Southall Community Alliance is a unifying organisation. On our board right now, we have a member who is the wife of the ex-president of Vishwa Hindu Kendra. If we were opposed to Hindus or the way they are describing it, we wouldn't have such support. Southall Community Alliance has been formed and exists the way it does because it stands for everybody. It is an inclusive organisation. It is very careful about that to ensure that it gives everybody a same opportunity to get involved. On the 25th of October, on the doorsteps, I was asked to speak by the people protesting on the basis that supported their campaign. I said I will speak on behalf of Save Southall Town Hall, to save Southall Town Hall for everyone. They said we can't allow that. We will continue to do that. And it's very sad for me that here we are almost 30 years ago. You know, as Suresh pointed out, John Cutmore and his team saved it from sale once because we were campaigning then to save Southall Town Hall. We've seen the masses of investment gone in, and I have been party to that. Somebody mentioned about Heathrow City Partnership. I was the vice chair of that. Ash Sharma was the name that you were talking about, the Hindu, and the one I appointed. And I was the vice chair. And again, I was the chairman of predecessor Southall Community Alliance. If we were opposed to Hinduism, we wouldn't have been doing that. He was our chief executive, who saved, and we invested over £1 million then. And brought in another 2 million for the extension that is built there. So the 3 million has come in directly into that town hall, above what the building is actually worth. I could go on all night and I won't, but I will say one thing. I'm very disappointed and angry by the fact that not only have we saved it once when Labour Party itself supported us, for which it needs to be commended, and those same people still are around today. We appeal to them, please stand by us, get involved in the campaign. It is not our campaign, it's not Suresh's campaign. It is the campaign of Southall people. To save it, to save the town hall for everyone. Please get involved. We didn't think we'd be doing it again. We have won a judicial review for which the legal team and everyone involved in the team and for the campaign needs to commend it. And we need to congratulate everyone for that. We didn't think we'd be doing it again. My last appeal to you is, and to all of us, this campaign's not over yet. We've got a hell of a long way to go. But one thing we're confident of, that we are determined to do, is to ensure this will stay a community asset for us all.
Hi. Well, first of all, I'd like to say where I'm from. I'm a student at Featherstone Sixth Form, and I found out this I was in the library studying and I saw this leaflet. And when I came today, I was actually disgraced in what I saw outside. Firstly, over here, I don't see any anti-nothing. The only anti-what we are is we don't want something which is a community asset to be taken away. Yeah? That's number one. That's propaganda outside. That's all that is. Second of all, I want to talk about the development on FM Conway. Now, I went to one clean air meeting a couple of, last October I went. Now, I put my points across, and I said there that I'm an asthma sufferer myself, and it's it's a nightmare for me. I live 200 meters away from my school. Like yourself, my distance to school isn't long, but I get asthma walking to school. When I'm coming home, when I wash my face, I see dirt on my face. Yeah? That's pollution in the air. And the third point is, why are we in this predicament in the first place? Southall Town Hall hasn't once turned any of us away. Any of you? So, why are they're trying to start now? Yeah, it brings people together, but they want to push people away from it. So, it shouldn't be happening.
We're nearly out of time, so can I have the last contribution from Bonnie?
Thank you. Is this working? Yeah, my name is Bonnie. I'm not actually a resident of Southall. I was working for Southall Black Sisters and through them got involved in the Southall Town Hall campaign. And I have to say what a privilege it is to be part of this campaign. And particularly what a privilege it is to be here tonight because it's so inspiring, especially for someone of my generation where I think apathy is increasingly present, to see everyone so involved in their community and so passionate about the future. So I think that's genuinely amazing. I actually did have a real question. Obviously, this issue is not just with austerity, but austerity is relevant to sale of public services. And so I was wondering, and I know there are a few lawyers in the room, what can councils actually do to resist central government policies on austerity? What powers do they have, and what should they be doing to, instead of falling down, bowing down to central government in policies which actually are very harmful to the vulnerable in our communities? So, that's for anyone.
Thank you very much. It's 9:25 and finally we have a question. Thank you very much, Bonnie. Can I just ask my colleagues at the front to give us any closing thoughts and to deal with that issue?
Sorry. This is, I think this is probably a personal point of view rather than a legal point of view in terms of what local councils should do. In my personal point of view, local councils and councillors should, at the start of the financial year, set a needs budget. And that needs budget, otherwise known as a deficit budget, should say central government grants is 90% of what we need. We need 100% of our grants. There's 10% missing, and we're going to campaign for that 10%. We're refusing to carry out cuts. Ealing Council should link with other councils up and down the country. Labour councils control increasingly large amounts of local authorities up and down the country. If those local councils stood together in the history of the Labour movement was built on the Poplar councils in the 1930s, the Clay Cross councils in the 1970s, the Liverpool and Lambeth council in the 1980s, that refused to carry out cuts, refused to do the dirty work. And the difference between what happened to the Lambeth and Liverpool councillors and today is those councillors will not face surcharge. Yes, they'll face a battle. Yes, they may have to face the wrath of national government. But if all councils stood together, united, then it's hard to see how a national government backed with a mass movement in London and throughout the country would be able to do something about it. The reality is that Ealing Council has got £50 million worth of reserves. This research has been done, and as my colleague Rian said at the back, Ealing Council is giving away things when in fact they should be campaigning, investing in things and refusing to carry out cuts and to carry out the Tories' dirty work. That's what, in my view, we voted Labour councillors in. It's probably the view of many people here, and what the likes of, and I say this from a personal point of view, it's not a legal point of view, but the Labour leaders who are currently in power, like Julian Bell, need to wake up and smell the coffee. The Labour Party has changed. It has got far more members, it's far more radical, and it's a different type of Labour Party. That is, and people are waiting for a lead, they're waiting to get involved in campaign, and unfortunately, Julian Bell, if you're not prepared to carry out the campaign and stop carrying out Tory cuts, then stand aside and let other people do the job that you are clearly failing to do.
Can I just ask for quick 1-minute contributions, closing remarks? Oliver?
Very quickly, there's a lot of things council can do, and it's not a legal question. Actually, the first thing that they need to do is to stop simply implementing the Tory cuts. What's happening is that the officers of this council and officers of other councils are talking to each other and more or less running the council, getting them into a way of thinking that you have to allow some of the developments that are taking place, that you have to allow privatisation, that you have to allow cuts. They think the only way forward is to have all of these developments and bring money in. First thing they need to do is to throw that mentality out of the window. They can campaign. They showed on some issues they can campaign, and thankfully leadership of the Labour Party has changed, and that's beginning to change. However, this is not about cuts. They don't need, whether council short of money or not, they don't need to sell Southall Town Hall. They're not going to get any significant money for it, and what they will lose in terms of the heart of the community is far, far bigger. And we need to be, from this meeting, talking to people, because if you talk to ordinary people in Southall, they'll say, of course we need that town hall. Of course we do. So we just need to go around and tell everybody what's happening, that the judge agreed with us that it shouldn't happen. We need to build up that campaign. We need education for all. We need hospitals for all. We need a community for all. And that's the message from this meeting. Please just go and talk to everybody, and I think we will be able to win. Thank you.
I mean, I don't want to add anything to what other speakers have said, but there are alternatives taking place to austerity. I mean, within Labour Party, local government, up and down the country, there's a Preston model which has revitalized through cooperative work, involving people who have seen their jobs losses, the town centres being closed, coming back by working together to rebuild those communities. And all we are actually saying is look at those alternative models and set up a budget which meets the needs of those communities. The problem with areas like Southall and Acton, mainly BME working class area, is that it suffered from disproportionate cuts over decades and decades and decades, despite the fact that councils get huge amount of money from central government to settle asylum seekers, refugees, etc. But that money isn't coming here. That's the problem. And it should be coming into this area. We're not saying we are antagonistic to the council. We were forced to take legal action. We didn't choose to become anti-Labour. We are not anti-Labour. We have very close relationship with central, some of us, with central leadership of Labour Party, who actually agree with our aspirations, but they're helpless in forcing local government to their viewpoint. And I think what we are saying to them is, here is a campaign which is willing to work with you. Here is a centre that you can work on to save it because of the specific needs of that community. And they're not simply listening to that voice. And we need to work out why that is. But I agree with what others have said in terms of setting the budget, having a different philosophy, meeting the needs of those communities. One last thing that I want to say, the question that you asked, which needs to be addressed, continually in areas like Southall, the support services for newer communities, and the Somali community is not new, it's been there for a long time, continuously keeps raised by people from the community. And you know, one of the saddest things is, Mr. Haji, you asked me to set up a meeting with Claudia and with Nasha, and I have emails them saying we will meet you in private to discuss the problems you have, both in terms of the democracy deficit that exists here and the needs of that community. And I can't deliver that because they're not here. But I've had a message from them saying they're willing to meet you on a separate occasion with that community. I and other people are willing to work with your community, and I don't see it as different from our community, to look at the specific needs and campaign and make sure that politicians listen to the voices that aren't being heard. That's all I can do, and I'm willing to spend a huge amount of time and energy in rebuilding that kind of campaign to service under-resourced, marginalized communities. And it's a commitment that I have whether we win the campaign or not. So I think it's important to recognize that. It's how other communities and sections of Southall rebuild their own energy and their own space, etc. And I think it's important that we work together to build that new future that we can have. And I do believe it's possible to do it if we have a new government, but this local Labour Party needs to come with us in the future. And I have to say, what really worries me and concerns is the issues that the VHK are using to divide us, and we have to address them. Trump is not about political right only, or the far right. It's the religious right combining with the far right. And if you don't understand that weapon and their aggressiveness, we will never understand how to take them on. For example, the demand they have is justice for the Hindu community. What does that actually mean? What they're saying is, if they don't get the town hall, injustice is being perpetrated against them. They already have a temple. Not 1, 3, 4 temples here. And they expect, in their arrogance, to be given that town hall, when actually it's the only public asset in this area. People say Dominion Centre is a public asset. It's got the lease from the council owns the lease, but it's actually owned by the Indian Workers Association. And Mr. Panesa will remember, who's the president of the East African Senior Citizen Group, the council tried to sell this 5, 6 years ago. Yes. We had to campaign to make sure that it wasn't sold. So it isn't just dependent on the austerity, etc. And the last thing I want to say is that look at the demand they make about justice for the Hindu community. They don't speak for the whole of the Hindu community. They're speaking about they speak for the management committee, a section of it at the BHK. We're willing to meet them, but compare that to the justice that real victims are fighting. The Grenfell victims who have lost lives, which we work with, people who get killed in racial attacks and domestic violence, people who have come thousands of miles away from other countries because of genocide and because of World Bank policies which have displaced communities. That's what we call real justice, not the ability to buy a building which doesn't belong to us. So this kind of scaremongering needs to be taken on immediately. And what they will do, they're not interested in facts. It's just attack, 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 and throwing dirt on you. And unless we learn that, we will have a Modiism, the new Modi factor in Southall. I'm sorry to say, we have to take this on. We cannot tolerate bigotry or religious division or intolerance or fundamentalism to come into politics. If we do that, it's a losing battle for us. So we have to remain united, and we have to respect each other, and we have to learn the ability to ensure that we learn the lessons of the struggles that we fought and the struggles that are emerging collectively. That's the only hope we have. Otherwise, we'll be divided within 5, 6 months on this issue, and we cannot afford to be divided. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. I know there were a few other questions, but we're out of time. Just a few things. Will you please join me in applauding the contributions of Paul, Suresh, and Oliver, and of everybody else? finally, just to remind you that this meeting was called by the Save Southall Town Hall campaign. We haven't actually saved it yet. All we've won is a legal case somewhere in London with strangers. So what we need is we need everybody to stay with us, united, and keep the fight going. Have a safe journey home. Thank you. बापिया दे नाल नहीं खड़ी पहले फोटो खिंच लेंदे हो सारे बस तुसी मेरे नाल बड़े बंदे हो